Good evening and welcome to Correro, your political and policy talk show where we dissect national issues and spotlight solutions that work. I am Godwin Sunday. Transportation remains one of the biggest challenges facing African cities, especially in Nigeria. From daily traffic gridlocks to the rising cost of fuel and the poor state of public transport infrastructure, moving people efficiently has become both a social and economic struggle. Yet, while the government continue to focus on motorized solution, an alternative system is gaining global attention, non-motorized transportation. Well, bicycles, pedestrian-friendly lanes, and community mobility programs are now being seen as practical, sustainable, and inclusive ways to bridge transportation gaps, especially in low-income communities where mobility equals opportunity. Tonight on Correro, well, we'll beam our spotlight even on the topic transportation, addressing the gaps through non-motorized systems. Joining me to unpack this is Charlotte Word, Executive Director of Recycle Bikes to Africa, an organization dedicated to transforming lives through access to affordable bicycles across Africa. And we also have with us here the person of Rotimi Aroge, who is the GROA Empowerment Foundation CEO and MD, also with us here in the studio. Well, at this point, we'll take a short break, and when we return, the conversations will begin. Please go nowhere. All right, welcome back. Well, with me in the studio right now, like I said before now, is Charlotte Ward, and we also have Gabriel Rotimi Aroge. Well, you're welcome to Correro.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, it's a full house indeed, and a lot of issues are begging for answers. But then, let's even begin with Charlotte right now by first looking at what your organization is doing. I understand that you've also traveled far and length of Africa in order to also empower people. But tell us, why did you choose Africa of all the continents in the world?
Okay, well, thank you, Godwin. We are Recycle Bikes to Africa, and back in 1997, our founder, Merlin Matthews, came up with the idea of creating a charity for bicycles. He was at university at the time, and he was an entrepreneur, and he was riding a bicycle himself, and he was seeing all these bikes not going anywhere. They were going to the dump, they were going to tips, they were just being scrapped, and he thought there must be a better way, and he had strong links with Africa at that point. So he thought, why don't I create a charity and send the bikes that people don't want anymore in the UK, or don't need anymore in the UK, and send them to our people in Africa who would have make a new life for those bikes. So he set that up in 1997. We sent our first container of bicycles in 1998. And since then, we have sent over 160,000 bikes to our partners in Africa. Now, we have 7 different partners in Africa at the moment, and they are in the Gambia, in Ghana, in Sierra Leone, in Nigeria, and also in Zambia, Malawi, and South Africa. And I have had the pleasure to travel to all of those partner countries, and I've seen firsthand the impact of those bikes going into those countries and what they do to people in very rural communities to support them with transportation. And people have had their lives changed for the better for having these bicycles to enable them to either get to school or to enable them to get to work or to get to healthcare. There's many different uses for the bicycles that we send over from the UK into Africa. So that's where Africa and the bikes going into Africa came from originally when we first started, and that's just been developing over time since, in the last 28 years we've built that model, and now we have a very well structured standing model that we use to send bikes to our partners in Africa to enable people to have access to non-motorised transportation, and to include in that the sustainability option as well, and how good it is for the environment, and it's a cheaper way to provide transportation for people.
All right, Rotimi, let's come to you at this point. You run also an empowerment foundation. in Nigeria and also by extension UK. But then there is also this conversation around bikes, especially when it has to do with bicycles. In Africa, there is this derogatory statement that people have held over the years. And that statement is driving bicycles simply means that you are a poor person or you are from a remote background or at best you're nothing to write home about. And I believe you've heard all of this narrative. But bring us up to speed. You've talked about alternative, non-motorized means of even mobility. In Africa, how do we change this narrative?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I think I like the where you started from. I believe for lack of better words, you are polishing it, people from the poor background and all that. The way we identify with it is a better past my neighbor kind of mentality when it comes to bicycle. That's also changed for me when I got to the UK, when I saw that bicycle is everything, from old, from young, elderly women, elderly men. They were doing bicycles. People, I work with a recycling company called BIFA. A lot of people bring bicycles there, and then you find out that these are elites. People that drive Jaguar, Range Rovers. They have bicycles. In fact, in the UK, people have extension where you can have bicycles on the rack and they extend it to the car or on the roof. So bicycle was everything about the UK. And I was a student of entrepreneurship and innovation. I did my master's in entrepreneurship and innovation from the University of Sussex in Brighton. Fortunately, that's exactly where the founder of Recycle also conceived this idea. So 2 major NGOs are being conceived in Brighton, the city of Brighton. Of course, football has made us to know where Brighton is. So out there, I came to the UK with already a participation in the accident prevention space. We're doing that. I was trying to get the children in different schools to understand the concept of road safety, because I actually have a personal story. My wife had an accident somewhere in Ikorodu some 18 years ago, 2006, October 21 or so, where over 100 people were killed in that accident, and she escaped by the whisker. So that was when I said I was going to do something about road accidents, because it's also a UN agenda, the UN Decade of Action to 2021 to 2030. The UN want to reduce injury and death rates by 50% before year 2030. So, and they were calling on individuals, organizations, everybody, just get something done. And I'm that type of person that I want to make a mark, get something done. So I started from that background before I got to the UK. So I became part of some competition from California University called the Big Idea Contest, which our university was one of the universities in UK, in Europe, I was a part of that competition. So I didn't make the first position, but I was top 5 in that position. But then they now helped me to understand that you want to save life is good, but who pays the bill? Who pays for that? Who pays the cost? You are not government. Government does this from taxpayers' money. You don't have control. So what you need to do if you really want to achieve this aim of helping people, saving lives and all that, is to build business around it. Of course, as a student of business, I was in a business school. I now looked at, okay, what should I do? The most vulnerable people on the road are pedestrians and cyclists. So I key that into the concept of road accident prevention, pedestrian and cyclists. So along the line, I started looking at, okay, what can I do again? And I enrolled in Brighton Bike Hub. Brighton Bike Hub is around, like 10 years old in the city of Brighton. It's a community interest company where they just teach people to do it themselves. They want people to be able to afford bicycles and all that. You see people there, they all have cars and all that. They are big people, but they still do bicycles. I've met an MP, member of parliament, in Brighton Bike Hub workshop. A member of parliament that's more or less like people of house here. I met him, we came to repair his bikes, and we had time. So from there, I became an apprentice and volunteer. And then I felt like it should be more than, I should do more than this, because my country doesn't have this kind of mindset. People come together, they come like a family. The bicycle was bonding them. There was more to it. They organize trips. They can do trips to France on bicycle, and they will go and come. They will go to camping. They sleep over in the camp. Maybe I did one to Horsham. We did 33 kilometer on road. So before I came there, I wasn't riding bicycle like that, but I knew how to ride bicycle. It was like about 20, 25 years I've not ridden bicycles, but I started riding again because of that. But for me, I like to share. I'm in the UK. My wife is in the UK. I have 2 kids. They are in the UK. I shouldn't bother about people who are here. But I think I'm not there for myself alone. I'm there for other people who are less privileged. So that's how I keyed into that vision they have to help this bicycle get to people who need them most. So I now bought into the idea of recycle because they have a good idea and they have been doing it for 20-something years. And I'm a new person that is just starting. If I want to get them to buy into my idea, I have to do what they want, and they also have to do what I want. So both of us, Recycle and us, agreed that okay, we should work on this. And it was necessity that brought me into cycling space, but I needed that to drive the road safety agenda. So it's a product development that will help to bring about a win-win. So for me, as a product designer, I call it an edu mobility solution. That's the name I give this, and it's all about a non-motorized transport system where you use mobility to enhance education. So now we are bringing something new about bicycles. So it's not about giving bicycles alone. If you flash back to what Charlotte said at the meeting with the Corps today, said it's more than giving somebody a bicycle. Because with bicycle, if you look at what I have now, I have cycle to school plus.
If we allow Mr. Rotimi to go on and on, we'll get to that point where we won't even we can't even stop you. Because I see how passionate you are about the whole recycling project and also. Yeah. But then let's even come to Charlotte at this point. You've traveled to few African countries. How's the reception been so far when you try to introduce bicycles or a non-motorized means of mobility to these communities?
The reception that we get has been very positive. I understand what you were saying earlier in the previous question around the stigma around bicycles and what that means. But for us, as a charity and Recycle going into very, very rural communities within the countries we work in, they have been embraced in those areas. There hasn't been any stigma around giving away or giving out a bicycle to school children who can't get to school normally. They have been very happy to receive that bicycle as part of the Cycle to School programs that we run in our countries, in our partner countries. They have received those bicycles. We have got case studies from the schools. We have looked at the attendance records from when they had a bike or before they had a bike as well, and also their grades. And we've seen that there has been a consistent increase in their attendance since they've received their bicycle, and also a consistent increase in their grades as well, because they've been able to get to school by using a bicycle. So we haven't seen any negativity across any of our partner countries with giving away or putting bikes into those countries at all.
Well, I asked that question in order to ask this particular word. So far, there have been a missing link between bicycle riders and also vehicles owners, like car owners and all of that. Now, when you get to African countries and you were able to explore, tell us that story. Have there been any challenge so far, even in distribution of this old bicycles? Why I'm asking is, when you distribute these bicycles, do they eventually get to the end users, who are people that are using the roads that basically is unaccessible? Are these bicycles, is there guarantee that these bicycles get to the end users?
For the work that we do, I can say yes, because we work very closely with our partners, like we will be doing with Rotimi and the work that we're doing here in Nigeria. We work closely and we build a very good relationship with our partners to ensure that they're working in the rural communities that need those bikes the most. Yes, there are even more rural communities that are even further away from where our hubs are in the countries, but we are going out and doing the research. And when I say we, I mean our partner organisations that we work with, the NGOs that we work with in those countries. They are going out and identifying those people who need the bicycle the most, and then they're giving them the opportunity to have those bicycles and to enable them to, to do what they need to do in their lives to better their lives. Yes, the roads you know, in some countries aren't even roads. You know, they're very much, you know, dirt tracks, and you know, they can be very difficult to drive down or even cycle down. But on the whole, the bikes that we send out are very robust bikes. They're mountain bikes on the whole, and say 80% of our bikes are mountain bikes. They're strong, they're robust, they're hardworking, they're good quality. So we know that they're going to last. We're not going to be sending a bicycle out to our partners that haven't got that ability to withstand the roads that are in our partners' countries that we work in. So, and we also send spare parts, and we also train mechanics as well. So when we go out and visit our partners, which we do on a regular basis, we ensure that those mechanics in those areas that the programs are set up in have a mechanic there who is able to fix any small problems like punctures or chains or anything that's happened with the bikes, to ensure that they're kept on the road and they're kept being used by the people that need them most.
All right. Fantastic. Mr. Rotimi, let's come back to you. You have toured Nigeria and you understand, you've been to UK and you're right now in Nigeria, and you've toured Nigeria to understand what it is to own a bicycle. Although you've tried to prevaricate and try to shy away from the first question on the stigma that comes with bicycle, but then we'll forgive you on that, which I believe is a holy forgiveness. But then, are we ready for the conversation around looking at the non-motorized system? Are we ready as a country, as a people, for this conversation?
Yes, it's a complex question, because when you say you want to bring bicycles to Nigeria, the first thing I kept hearing from people, oh, Nigeria is too dangerous, where is the road, blah, blah, blah. There was one time I had to tell one transport agency that was saying, oh, you needed to have come to us. We are the one that own all the policy on how the road can be drawn and all that. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. Are there up to 10,000 bicycles in Lagos or in Nigeria? He said yes, they are up to. Are they up to 1,000 bicycles in Lagos? He said they are up to 1,000 bicycles. I said, which road are they passing? Then he kept quiet. There are already bicycles doing deliveries, even in Lagos. Neighborhood watch, the neighborhood, the
Lagos State Neighborhood Watch, yeah.
Are they not a bicycle using agency? Do they have a service? Did they have a service lane? Do they have a dedicated lane? No. If you go around, you see Bolt, Uber, all those delivery boys, they use bicycles. They run around with bicycles, and they are already there. So even when you come to the UK, when you talk about bicycle lane in the US, America, and all that, it's just a few places. Maybe they look at places that are motorway, most of the motorways, which you cannot, the speed is too high for you to really have a bicycle. In fact, bicycles are banned on those roads. Those are the ones that they really take their time to do dedicated lanes, maybe like on the Ikorodu Road, on most of these express roads. But on the other normal roads, what they do is they draw a line and put the bicycle crest. That tells you that this road is for both bicycles and buses and cars, share the road. So now, the problem we have here is not really on service lane or bicycle lane and all that. Road user behavior is zero. That's the problem we have. Because when even if you put a demarcation and make a dwarf wall, most of the time you see accident happen. Okada will go from this place and go and hit somebody there. Okay, will go and cross that demarcation and come. But in the UK, you see even a double-decker bus, you see bicycles around them. All of these people are trained. So that's the Herculean task. That's where to start from. Training, road user behavior. That's why I mentioned when we were talking to the commercial, I said, we are training tomorrow's drivers today. Because if these children had to begin to ride on the road with normal cars, they will be taught everything, every theory about cars. Because you cannot really ride with cars if you don't know what the driver is thinking. If he's trafficating this way, you see the pointer. If he's slowing down, you see the red light. If he's reversing, you see the orange light. A cyclist must know that. In fact, all our road users, our drivers do not know about cycling. Because the drivers need to know about cycling and pedestrian. Because of that lack of knowledge, they go through the pedestrian crossing, even when the pedestrian is there. Out there in the UK, when the pedestrian is by the zebra crossing, they stop. But here, they increase the acceleration. They said they didn't see any zebra. So it's not about getting ready. The readiness is not even on the side of cyclists. It's on the side of the road users. But we know that advocacy is the key, is critical. We must put a lot of effort there. That's why our first strategic partner is the federal road safety, because it's all about road safety, awareness, changing the minds of the people. So, but then we have a very good idea, which we think will work eventually. Because when they think about the fact that people drive the way they drive in Nigeria, they don't even know, nobody even knows where to start from. But we think we can start from training these children through the Cycle to School Plus. We have Cycle to School. It's not our invention, it's a global initiative. But the Plus is our own invention. Because with that Plus, we're talking about training these children using bicycles into global standard leaders. We're going to give them mentors. We're going to help them to know about the road before the time. That's why I said we're training tomorrow's drivers today. We are also trying to help them to even have a better understanding and entrepreneurship exposure. Because if you give an asset like these bicycles, like she said, quality bikes, mountain bikes, they are not small money. Even in the UK, they are very expensive. Even in the UK, my own bike was stolen recently. If you check some of my posts, you'll see my own bike was stolen where I parked it, because everybody wants to have a bike. So now, for these children to be able to use this bike diligently, safely, achieve what we want them to achieve and still have it, such a child needs commendation and needs to be encouraged. So we're going to be putting a lot of benefits up front, that maybe, for instance, top 10 best children are going to be qualifying for scholarship, local or international.
Well,
so that's an example.
Yeah, Mr. Rotimi, always want to eat into my time, but we have a lot of things to even discuss on this table.
Okay,
for the purpose of this conversation and for the purpose of our international audience, when Mr. Rotimi mentioned keke napep, it just means a tricycle. And when he mentioned Okada, it just means motorcycle. So we needed to clarify that for our international audience that are watching, they won't know what keke is.
Yeah.
It's just those of us in Nigeria that understand what keke is. I know Charlotte doesn't understand what keke is all about. That's why we needed to put that record straight. But then, Charlotte, let's come back to you at this point. We understand that the recycle project, it's a very elaborate one. But then there is a constraint when it has to do with gender in Africa that are permitted to even use bikes. These will begin to have female bikes. We have also the male bikes. How will the non-motorized system, which we are trying to even advocate for right now, how can we sustain the space in Africa?
Well, we send out both all types of bikes to our partners. So we'll send out mountain bikes for men, mountain bikes for women, and smaller mountain bikes for children. And they are accessible to everybody, really. They're just a slightly different shape of bike. But we want to really support anybody who needs access to a bike in those areas that we're working with. But particularly, we do advocate for women and girls to have access to bicycles. And we are doing a lot of work with some of our current partners, and we're going to be doing a lot of work with the GRA Empowerment Foundation around supporting girls to have access to these bikes in order for them to have safer journeys to school, to get to school quicker and on time, and to take away that stigma again about girls not being able to ride a bike or unable to ride a bike. And we want to develop that conversation to ensure that girls can and will be able to ride a bike, to give them similar opportunities and enable them to be able to become the people that they want to become, and not be restrained by anything. So we want to encourage that and support that work to make sure that girls do have access to the bikes that we send to all of our partners across Africa.
Well, so when you look at all the assessments so far, can we say that when you look at the culture that surrounds all of this non-motorized sector in Africa, especially within the rural sector, when you look at it critically, is this obtainable? Is it achievable? Have you, let's even hear you talk about this when you look at it critically.
I think it is. It does take a lot of work, and it will be down to myself, but also down to the GRA Empowerment Foundation to do a lot of that groundwork, to go into those schools, to talk to the head teachers, to identify the people who need those bikes the most, whether they be girls or boys. But we are encouraging the GRA Empowerment Foundation to identify girls in particular who have a long distance to travel to school, to enable them to have those bikes. And we have seen in other countries that we work with, so especially in the Gambia and in Sierra Leone, we have seen how owning a bike for a girl to get to school has improved their life and has improved their ability to get an education and to stay in education and to complete their education and then go on to do other things that maybe they wouldn't have an opportunity to do before. That will come down to potentially having access to a bike, but there'll be other factors involved in that as well. But if we can give them an opportunity to have that bicycle, then we will do that, and we will work with our partners closely to identify that and ensure that can happen.
So in a situation where you meet a roadblock, you meet a very tough situation,
Yeah.
probably from the chiefs of this community, government policies, and all of this put together, is recycling as an organization also putting this into consideration, how to address some of these concerns?
That would be down to our partners to work with those issues, because they are on the ground here. We're obviously based in the UK, so we're kind of separate from that, but we will work together. But it is down to our partners to work with those organizations to have those discussions.
Since you keep referring me to your partners, let me even come back to Mr. Rotimi in this particular instance. Mr. Rotimi, let's talk about some of the policies by different state governments that doesn't even support, first of all, road constructions that can accommodate bikes. In this instance, we have 36 states across the federation, and I can tell you for free that literally all the states in Nigeria does not have a pathway for bicycles. And right now we are advocating for non-motorized systems across Africa, and by extension Nigeria, which you are even advocating for, because you would not have left the UK to come back to Nigeria to come and advocate, but because of the love you have for all of the system, that's why you came back and you're advocating that, no, let's replicate what we have outside the country, even in Nigeria, because you believe in this vision. But in a situation where this is not captured as under the policy framework of the government, are there modalities that are being put in place in order to address these concerns?
Yes, there are modalities, and then that's exactly why we were able to come as close as having the unveiling by the Corps Marshal himself, Federal Road Safety. We didn't get to the Federal Road Safety at the federal level by accident. We are members of the coalition of road safety NGOs in Nigeria, and then that is the umbrella body of all the NGOs. More than 200 or 300 NGOs are under that platform, which will help us to scale up when we actually get to that point. But then we are also been privileged to be part of the NCT, National Council on Transport. That's the highest policy body under the Ministry of Transportation. If we flash back to the people who attended today's event, the Secretary General of SIOTA, who was at the unveiling, is also a staff or a member of the top echelon in the Federal Ministry of Transport. So on the policy side, we have been building that for years. We have even had to influence policy on substance abuse, such that I was able to go to Abu Dhabi on the UN ODC and ISOP scholarship to address that fact. And I was the only transporter in that World Conference. So when it comes to pushing policy, I have had the experience, and it's something that I know how to do, and I believe I have already the network to get that done. But more than pushing policy, at this point in time, is just get these bicycles on the street. That's the first thing. Now, the way to get this done on the street is not to be asking for bicycle lane. If you ask for bicycle lane, and then these children will not get these bicycles, because people are already running bicycles on the street. It's just that we are starting at the toughest parts. The toughest part is Lagos. metropolitan city like Lagos. First and foremost, we were told, oh, Lagos is so advanced, you don't need to bring these bicycles to, because there are no poor people in Lagos, and that is lie. You have rural cities, you have rural settlements within Lagos. Ipaja, Yobo, Alimosho, local government, all those command, they are all bush, they are all villages. They are all coming from that end to schools in the main metropolis. For, of course, if we want to succeed, we actually need to start from where we have a team. That's exactly why we're starting from Alimosho. But after conquering that area with the number of schools that we have, by the way, we have 505 bicycles already at the port right now. They arrive on the 7th of October on a 40-feet container sent by Recycle back to Africa. So we're not talking about the future. The bicycles are here. They're already at the ports. We're just trying to go through some custom clearing and all that and bring them out. We have also profiled schools, like about 10 schools are already on ground that we profiled to receive these bicycles. When we say profile, we are not just using guesswork or just telling the principal to give us a list of people and all that. We know that corruption exists everywhere. There are principals that will give us the name of their sister's daughter. If you check it, they are living behind the school. But we are talking about children who live upwards of 5 kilometers away from school, and they will have to walk 5 kilometers, that's 2 ways, about 10 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 14 kilometers. But there's a school out of the 10 we did. That school had 3 people. The highest kilometer from the distances that we are giving was about 3.3 kilometers, which doesn't qualify anybody in that school for this bicycle. So we have to return the list and say, this is unacceptable, because there are other schools where children walk about 17 kilometers or they travel about 17 kilometers. Either they are paying for it or they are walking or they are skipping school because of it. So that is how thorough we could be in this matter. And I believe Recycle can see our passion and our readiness to create our own standards when it comes to getting to the roots of this. So one of the things that chase people away from it, though they believe, oh, when this bicycle comes, they will get into the hands of the wrong people. Maybe the government will ask for it and share it and all that. We are one of the partners of Recycle that says we are going to create a system where the children will have to pass through the bicycles, not take the bicycles away. Somebody said, how can that be possible? It's very possible. I borrowed that model from the University of Sussex. When I came to the University of Sussex, I didn't have a laptop that is compliant with the school's standard. But the school said they have a laptop farm inside the library. What do? Go with your ID card, unlock that cabinet, you see a laptop, go with it for 6 hours because you don't have the charger. By 6 hours, that laptop, the power will deplete. Come back, return that one, take another one. Do that 3 or 4 times in a day, you already have your day, it's gone. So you do that consistently, you have graduated. And that's how we got the idea of making this bicycle okay for every student. Now, if you give a student a bicycle and you don't provide for spare parts, repair, and all of those stuff, it's a matter of 1 term. The bicycle is abandoned, tire is broken or stolen, or the spoke is bent, and the people cannot afford to fix it, and they will let it go, and the scheme is dead. So, but we say 100% zero cost to the child. The bicycle have to go through routine maintenance. The bicycles have to be monitored. Supervisors have to be there. When it comes to the real road safety, we are going to be using some volunteers who will ride with them in a train in the morning. They will ride with them in the morning, they will ride with them back. And how did I get that idea? When we do what we call the critical mass in Brighton City, where over 400 bicycles come. As small as H2, they come on the road on that day of critical mass, and they ride on the major express, and they have a feel of what it takes to ride on the road. So that is where we got all of these things for, to solve the problem of safety on the road.
You're already taking us. Where you're talking right now, I feel I'm already in UK. But I had to pitch myself back that, no, Godwin, you're in Nigeria. So let's take the conversation from Nigeria. But then let's go back to Charlotte here. Looking at the old SDG goals right now, is this non-motorized system, how will it accelerate all of the SDG goals, especially within Africa?
Well, there are a number of SDG goals that non-motorised transportation will cover, and Watami and I have worked together on them and looked at them and identified the ones that we think are the most applicable to what we're doing. that is equivalent to what we're doing as well in all our other partner countries as well. So in order to ensure that we can get the bikes to the people that need them, we need to be able to satisfy the needs of, you know, those goals, to be able to communicate this out to people who will be looking to support us and support the foundation with this project. And in order for them to support that, we need to show the evidence of how those goals can be achieved. And I know Rotimi has done a lot of work around that, and he has identified those particular goals to be able to support the work that we're doing.
Yes, let me add to what Charlotte is saying. Goal 4 is quality education on the 17 SDG goals. So that is the flagship goal that is driving everything. Then goal 5 is gender equality. That is why we are talking about girl child giving priority. 65% or more of the final beneficiaries are going to be girls, which means if we go to a school that is mixed, we prioritize the girls and the boys will just be used to add, because bicycle cycling is already a boys thing in this part of the world. But out there in the UK, it's more 50-50 or even more of the girls. But then when we talk about goal 11 has to do with sustainable city. That is where you are talking about, bicycle lane, safety, blah, blah, blah. So we already have that. That's why we are working with agencies and organizations and partners who are going to be looking at policy and looking at how city can be safe and people can ride and all that, which is already ongoing. We see some bicycle lane in Abuja. I was driving around by Abuja. They were showing me, that's a cycle lane. And I know that the Lagos area, some of the roads, they may not have drawn the mark, but they are cycle-friendly because they have slabs.
Assumed cycle-friendly paths.
Yeah. So, but with policy, we can actually tell the area Lamata that why don't you start with drawing a line on the road and putting a crest. It puts in the mind of the road users that this road should be shared. You understand? So but when we talk about goal 8, that will interest you. Goal 8 is decent work and economic well-being. So decent work, when we're doing this, it's going to create jobs for those who are going to be escorting those people, those children. It's not for free. Some brands are going to come, I believe, with this call that we are making. Some brands are going to come and say, what do you need? We tell them that volunteers that will go with them in the morning and evening, they need to get some stipends or get paid or even get employed. It could be a full-time job following those children to school and back. And over time, you will get captains among them and they'll be able to captain themselves. Over time, you discover that children now can be able to ride on their own. In the UK, you don't have to follow any child to school. My son actually started riding maybe like 2 weeks ago. Why? Because I ride bicycles to work. I take a bicycle to the train station. I join the train because bicycles are allowed on train. I get to the other side. I take my bicycle out and do a 30 minutes journey. And with that, in a day, I save like 12 pounds. I know what it means in Naira. Every day, I save as much as that. Then my son comes and says, Daddy, transfer 10 pounds to me. I want to take a bus. I said, no, I can't be saving my own money and you are taking it to take bus. When there are about 6 bicycles in the house, go and take one. I followed him to school. I rode behind him. I have the video. And then right now, he does it himself and even enjoys it. The first day, we did about 1 hour to his school. But now, he does 20 minutes to school by himself without me following him.
Well, Rotimi, you keep taking me to the UK. I keep pinching myself to return back to Nigeria. Anytime you talk about the UK, I bring myself, because I know that the bikes that you bring into Lagos, but Rapid TV also get a few so that I can learn how to drive bicycle also. But
of course, why not? You're already our partner.
But then there is this conversation around the fact that Nigerians are afraid when it has to do with things of this magnitude. Except it is an elite policy that once these bicycles get to Nigeria and the whole process of non-motorized system is going to be captured by the elites. You want to quickly address this concern before we even wrap it up today?
Yes, of course, I agree with their fear. The fear is genuine and all that, and that's what we've been seeing over time and over time. That is why integrity is a scarce commodity, and then that's the only way you can actually capture people like Charlotte to have that interest or have that trust. To load a 40-feet container with bicycles to your country for the first time. See, we're a startup. In their 28 years of operating in Africa, they've never worked with a startup. They've only worked with people who are already established in the bicycle space. But because they saw the passion, they saw what we've done and all that, they say, let's give it a try. And they're working with us for the first time. For the first time, they're working with a startup. So let me say, we are just unusual. We are not the regular partners they have. We are not also the regular Nigerians that will let that kind of a thing work. I've actually walked away from so many of the government agencies who start to tell me how many of these bicycles have been prepared for the government. I say government that is supposed to be giving the underprivileged people these bicycles will now be preparing bicycles for government, and I walk away because I don't want to hear it. I'm upset because if I was doing this in the UK government would have helped me to go and bring the container from Apapa. By now, bicycles would have been distributed to people because we already have the students. Charlotte was in Lagos on Tuesday because I'd left Lagos on Monday after we did 1 or 2 runs there. She was in schools there, and if you look at the video, you see how anticipatory they are, excited they are to hear that the bicycles are in the Apapa port. But right now they can access the bicycles because we need that that container to be released. We can't pay the kind of money we are hearing because they are talking something in tens of millions for us to bring it out. We cannot. It's not for sale. Why should we suffer to bring bicycles to the shore of Nigeria and we're still going through looking for financier, looking for funders to come and bring a bicycle that is not going to really be sold to earn money? Because we are eventually looking for corporate entities to come in and partner with us and do this because they have CSR budgets. Some of them are inclined towards education and all of that. So we are thinking and believing that this forum is going to help us reach out to them, because it's not really easy to reach out to them. And you know the way it is who is bringing something on the table, what is in it for me and what is in it for the company and all that. We know what we can do for the corporate entities to flag off to push their brands, but these are things that we want them to do for us. But the bicycles, I tell you, definitely you will reach the end users. As we speak, we have profiled 10 schools with about 50 bicycles per school. We know what it takes to get that to them, and then they are already on standby.
All right, I'm missing the right. It's time for us to go. But let me just come back to you, Charlotte, at this point. Government officials right now watching us. What's your one-line message to them in terms of mobility reforms, even in Nigeria?
We would like to have their support. I'm sure from this conversation we've had today and other meetings we've had, sorry, it's more than one line, but more than to ensure that they're able to support this project to help empower the children of tomorrow and give them the opportunities they deserve.
Well, viewers, this is how far we can go. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi, for finding out time to be with us here on Correro, and thank you, Charlotte Ward, for being with us here on Correro.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I wish we have time to talk more, but then I've been signaled that it's time for us to go. Don't forget that you can join the conversation also and follow us across all our social media handle currently showing on your screen. And you can also download the Rapid TV app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.